What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab Show. The College Football National Championship is here. My Notre Dame Fighting Irish is playing Ohio State Buckeyes. This is going to be an iconic championship matchup. Even though Ohio State is minus 8.5, it opened up at 9.5. Obviously, I got to go Notre Dame. I'm taking them plus 8.5. I think it's ridiculous this line is so big. I understand Ohio State, they have the better team. I get that. They have more five-star players. They are a more talented team. Absolutely. But I ask myself, who has the better defense and who has the better coach? And that is Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I would take Marcus Freeman over Day any time of the week. And I get it. Ryan Day's done a great job at Ohio State. I mean, you had an over $20 million budget. You should do great things with that budget over there at Ohio State. So Marcus Freeman, he's had a little to work with, and he's really taken off with Notre Dame this year. It's amazing. Ever since the NIU loss, Notre Dame has flipped the script, and they said, look, we don't care who we play. We're going to match up against people, and we're going to play them. My biggest thing for Notre Dame going into this matchup against Ohio State is, can Notre Dame stop the run? And I understand they have great receivers, the best receiver in the country, Jeremiah Smith. They're just stacked. They're stacked everywhere. In Notre Dame, they love to play man. So it's going to be interesting, if Leonard Moore's on Jeremiah Smith and playing man the whole game, that's going to be difficult. I think, what Texas did, they double-teamed Jeremiah Smith the whole game. He only had one reception for 3 yards. So I think Notre Dame, they're going to have to double Jeremiah Smith every now and then. I think it's crazy to play man on Jeremiah Smith for 4 quarters in the national championship game. I just don't think they're going to do that. I think Notre Dame's going to come up with the game plan. Marcus Freeman is a defensive head coach. He understands defensive schemes. He understands that, hey, we're going to have to put pressure on their quarterback, Will Howard. We're going to have to make him throw in some passing lanes where he doesn't want to. We're going to have to get him uncomfortable. If Ohio State's able to run the ball, kind of like how Penn State did in the first half against Notre Dame. Really, in the first 3 quarters, it was like Penn State was running all over Notre Dame's defense, and I don't want that to happen. Because you have veteran running backs like Henderson where he's just going to take off. And then you got Junkins, like that double combination for Ohio State running backs, man, that's tough. Like Notre Dame, you're going to have to stop that run because if Notre Dame doesn't going to stop the run, it's going to be a long national championship for Notre Dame. And then we're going to hear it all offseason about how Notre Dame choked it away, just like they did over 10 years ago when Notre Dame played Alabama in the national championship game with Manti Te'o. They got blown out. We remember all that. But I just think the biggest thing for Notre Dame's defense is you got to stop the run. And obviously Jeremiah Smith, because we saw all the explosive plays that he did against Oregon in the Rose Bowl. So I think a lot of things limit Ohio State's explosive plays and stop their run. And I think that's a recipe for success on Notre Dame's defense. However, Notre Dame's offense, if you cannot run the ball on Ohio State's defense, which they're stacked. I mean, Ohio State has Caleb Downs, the transfer from Alabama, one of the best safeties in the country, him and Xavier Watts. Xavier Watts on Notre Dame as well. Both safeties, both are ball hawks. Both understand the game. They both can make plays on any type of player. They can make plays in the open field. They can make an open field tackle. And they can also read the quarterback and make a pick, like a pick six, like Xavier Watts did against USC, a 100-yard pick six. So I expect Caleb Downs and Xavier Watts to make a huge impact on both defenses on both sides of the ball. But my thing is with Riley Leonard is you're going to have to throw the ball. You're going to have to eventually, running it like he did against Penn State is good, but we're going to have to open up the playbook a little bit. You're going to have to take some chances here against Ohio State because Ohio State, we know talent for talent, they are better than Notre Dame. That's just how it is. They have more five-star players. They're a more talented team. But I think our veteran defense is going to save us here. We got guys like Jack Kaiser, who's been there for 6 years, making his 70th career start in the national championship game. So we do have some experience there. And then we got Jalen Sneed. We got Bryce Young, Leonard Moore, who stepped up this year, has done great things for Notre Dame. But to Notre Dame's offense is like Jordan Faison. He's going to have to take off here and really isolate the cornerbacks for Ohio State. Jaden Greyhouse, who had a great game against Penn State, over 100 yards receiving. He's going to have a huge game. And then tight end Mitchell Evans. I think he's an X factor for Notre Dame's offense in the passing game. Get it to him. Mitchell Evans is a big tight end, probably 6'4", 6'5". He's a huge target. So on these third and downs, you're going to have to throw him the ball and convert on these third and downs. For Notre Dame, the third downs are huge here. You're going to have to extend the drives here. You're going to have to keep Will Howard and that high-powered offense off the field. That's how you're going to beat Ohio State here. If Notre Dame just stalls out these drives, continues just to run the ball and get on third and shorts and convert those third downs, even the third and tens, Notre Dame's going to have to convert those. And Riley Leonard understands that. Marcus Freeman understands that if we want to beat Ohio State here, we're going to have to keep their offense off the field. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have long drives, 8-minute drives, not take our time. We don't need to be in a hurry. And then obviously Notre Dame's best player is Jeremiah Smith. He's banged up knee right now. He loves to hurdle people. He will be in the Heisman voting. Obviously, it's way too early for 2025 season to begin, but I think he's a preseason Heisman guy. Jeremiah Love, the running back for Notre Dame. He's an X-Factor type of guy. He's just a guy that can really break you off. He can run you over, and he also has a finesse where he can jump over you, juke you, and take you off for like a 90-yard touchdown. And we saw that against IU, the 98-yard touchdown run that Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Smith is the receiver for Ohio State. Jeremiah Love is Notre Dame's best player, pound for pound overall. He is their most dynamic player, and I think Jeremiah Love needs to get in the passing game as well. Notre Dame wants to run the ball all the time. Ohio State defense is going to key in on that. Ohio State has a great defense. They love to stop the run. They shut down Oregon, puts up 35-plus a game, and they only put up 21 points. And really, a couple of those points came in the second half. So I'm looking at Ohio State defense. They are stacked just like Notre Dame. Very similar defenses. They can play man. They're not scared, and they're not scared to blitz and put pressure on the quarterback. So I think offensively, Notre Dame has a huge task. They're going to have their best offensive game this weekend in the national championship game. They're going to have to, because if not, yes, it's going to be an uphill battle for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's going to be playing down, which isn't good. Notre Dame's going to have to start off fast. But I think a huge thing is Riley Leonard and Jeremiah Love offensively are the X factors. You guys, the best players on that team, are going to have to play their best. That's just how it is. In a national championship game, you're going to have to play your best, and Notre Dame's are underdogs. The last time, they're 8.5-point underdogs. I recall back in 2002, 2003, Ohio State played Miami in the national championship game, and Miami was -7.5 that game. So Ohio State was underdogs by 7.5, similar to what Notre Dame is right here. 8.5, really almost the same. So it's just Ohio State won. They beat Miami in overtime in the national championship game. And that was really the end of Miami's reign. We were used to see Miami win in the 80s and 90s, but that was the end of Miami, is when Ohio State beat them in that BCS championship game. And I remember Willis McGahee in that game tore his ACL. It was one of the worst injuries I've ever seen in a running back. It was sick, bro. It really was, but Ohio State prevailed and won in overtime. That's just an example of how this game's going to go. I think this game is going to go back and forth. I think it's going to be really close. But, obviously I need Jeremiah Love and Riley Leonard to really ball out. They're going to have to have their best game of their season. Obviously, we're going to have to stop Ohio State's run, because if not, it's going to be a long game. Ohio State can put up points quickly, and we've seen that in the Texas game. We saw Henderson's, what was it, 60, 70-yard screen pass touchdown. We also saw Henderson throw a punch in that game, so it kind of changed the momentum. It shifted the momentum in a way, but defense wins championships, and I think, Marcus Freeman, an old ex, he used to play at Ohio State as a player. He played linebacker at Ohio State. He obviously stated that it doesn't matter where I played college football at. It's just interesting to know that, Marcus Freeman played in big games. He played in 2 national championship games as a player at Ohio State and lost both championship games. He lost to Florida and lost to LSU. So he understands what's at stake. I don't think he feels any pressure of this moment. I think it's a great opportunity for Marcus Freeman to grow the brand that he has right now at Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame should love Marcus Freeman. He's a player's type of coach. The players form around him. The halftime speeches that he does, just everything that Marcus Freeman does. He's a true leader, man, and I think Notre Dame is really backing him, win or lose in this national championship game. However, if Notre Dame does get blown out, he's not going to hear the end of it for a long time. Obviously, the future is bright for Notre Dame, win or lose in this game. But I think it boils down to Notre Dame defense. Can you guys stop Ohio State? Like, that's what it's going to boil down to, because Ohio State, we know they're going to put up numbers no matter what. They're going to score. It's just, are we going to limit their explosive plays? Are we going to limit Will Howard throwing to Jeremiah Smith for a 60-yard bomb? Like, that's, so our secondary for Notre Dame has a huge test, the biggest test yet, and they love to play man. I just think playing man on Jeremiah Smith all 4 quarters is not anything smart. I think it's a mistake. We're talking about a guy that can go top 3 this year, but he's too young to do it. So, bro, playing man on Jeremiah Smith the whole game, dude, I don't like that. We're going to have to double him every now and then, bro, because I think that's going to have a big playmaker right there. And we saw that in the Oregon game, dude, and we saw that in Tennessee game. So Ohio State and Ryan Day, they have a great game plan, and it's nothing new. Notre Dame understands Ohio State. They played them in 2023 season at home at Notre Dame, and we lost by 3. And it was a heartbreaking loss. It was a game that Notre Dame should have won, really. And freshman Jeremiah Love, he even stated, hey, he's got a bad taste. He wants to play Ohio State. This was before the Ohio State-Texas game started. He wanted to play Ohio State. He wants this game. So our best player on Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love, wants to play Ohio State. That's a huge, great sign for Notre Dame. That's what we want, dude. So I just think overall, I'm taking Notre Dame at plus 8.5. So if Notre Dame loses by 7 points, I still win the bet, so I won't be as mad. But obviously, I want Notre Dame to win this game. But the recipe for success for Notre Dame going into this championship game is keeping long drives with Riley Leonard and Jeremiah Love, keeping our offense on the field, keeping them on the field for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes to drive. That's what Notre Dame needs to do. And get Ohio State, Will Howard, a little shook up. Get him on 3rd and longs. That's what we want. We don't want Ohio State to have 3rd and 4s because we know they're going to go for it on 4th and 4 when they're past the 50. So it's a 4-down territory, and I think same thing for Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame, if we're in a 4th and 4, 4th and 5 situation, we could settle for a field goal or go for the touchdown. I like going for it here. This is the championship game. We didn't make it here just being mediocre. We made it here taking risk, being aggressive on both sides of the ball. That's how Marcus Freeman got here. So I just think for Notre Dame offensively, they're going to have to step up because what we did against Penn State, 3 points in the first half, that's not cutting it. If Notre Dame puts up 3 points in the first half against Ohio State, we're pretty much cooked. I mean, it's going to probably be 17-3 at halftime if that's the case. It's going to be over with. We don't want that. We want long drives, and we want to score touchdowns in the red zone for Notre Dame. And we want to limit Will Howard in that offense. Like, if they're going to march down the field and run all over us, let's hold them to a field goal. That's a win for Notre Dame. We don't want them to score touchdowns. So in the red zone, our red zone defense for Notre Dame's going to have to step up. We're going to have to make a play. We're going to have to make a pick, a fumble, something like that. But that's the beauty of football is we don't know which team's going to come out. We don't. We don't know if a team's going to come out flat. We don't know if a team's just going to look bad. We don't. We don't know if Ohio State's going to look like they did against Michigan, where they only scored 10 points in the whole game. Like, we just don't know. We don't. Like, it just, that's the beauty of this game is you just don't know the outcomes yet. You don't know which quarterback's going to look better than the other quarterback. You don't know if Will Howard's going to throw a terrible ball where it's just like, bro, why are you throwing that? Obviously, Riley Leonard had, 2 picks in the Penn State game. So I just think Riley Leonard does not need to force things. Because if Riley Leonard starts forcing throws and throwing picks against Ohio State, yes, it's going to be an uphill battle for Notre Dame. So obviously Notre Dame's going to literally have to play a perfect game where no turnovers here. Scoring in the red zone, scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Limit their big explosive plays for Ohio State. That's how Notre Dame wins this game. I mean, it's going to be a heavyweight fight. Like Marcus Freeman said, this is going to be a heavyweight fight. It's going to go big throw for big throw. It's going to come down to the wire. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to who has the ball last. And our field goal Mitch, who's been ice cold veins in the playoffs. I think Notre Dame wins by a field goal. Something like 21-24, Notre Dame wins the national championship. first time since 1988, and Lou Holtz was the head coach, and Lou Holtz will be present at this national championship game, man. It's great. Now, the one thing advantage that I do kind of give Notre Dame is Notre Dame played in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium already against Georgia Tech earlier this year. So they know this field, so they're kind of like, all right, that's an advantage for sure. Ohio State hasn't played in this field. Notre Dame has earlier this year, beat Georgia Tech, ran right through Georgia Tech, so they understand the locker room field, just the whole field, everything, the whole dynamic of this stadium, so in Atlanta. So, like, this is great. It's amazing that Notre Dame's already played there. Now they're back playing in the same stadium, months down the road. So I think that's kind of an advantage for Notre Dame. They understand the feeling. They know the turf. They just know everything about the field. So it's great. I would say that is an advantage. You played at this field already earlier this year or this past year. So that's great. So I'm going for Notre Dame. I'm a diehard Notre Dame fan, but I'm taking the +8.5 because I just think Notre Dame's defense is the difference here. Like, we're going to have to stop their run. We're going to have to stop both of their running backs, or else it's going to be a long night for Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame could get blown out. I'm going to be honest here. They could. If they come out flat like they did against NIU or somebody like that, yeah, Notre Dame could get blown out. But what about Ohio State? What if Ohio State comes out flat like they did against Michigan? Lost to Michigan the last game of the regular season, 10-13. So I do think this game could, in theory, be a low-scoring game. I know it sounds crazy. Both offenses can put up points. Obviously, Ohio State has the most explosive offense with Jeremiah Smith. You got Trayvon Henderson. Obviously, their defense is stacked. You got Jack Sauser, who made that sack on Texas quarterback and ran it for a touchdown. They were roommates freshman year at Ohio State. Just some history of the background, but two similar styles of defense. They like to play man. They put pressure on the quarterback, and they're going to say, hey, we're going to take this one-on-one matchup. Who's going to win? Which man is going to be better? But I think ultimately Notre Dame offensively, they have the biggest test yet because what I've seen in the offense, so far in the playoffs has been so-so. It's like, no, dude, like Riley Leonard, we're going to have to take shots down the field. We're going to have to put up points because if we put up 14 points in the national championship game, we're pretty much cooked. Like, I don't want that. Like, I want 28-plus points from Notre Dame tonight, bro. I really do. I want them to put up 28 to 35 points, and I think Notre Dame wins this national championship game, man. It's just history in the making. A lot is riding on this game, but obviously I'm going by Notre Dame Fighting Irish +8.5. Marcus Freeman is the better coach. Let's go, Notre Dame. Let's go!